you don't understand about prison life. It is actually a whole different world in any jail that you go into. If you hear on those videos, there's a lot of gang banging. There's a lot of grouping of inmates. Some of it for safety, and some of it for people who are bullies or people who feed off of others. Okay. And we also create that in the prison system and in the jail system. We take these people away from society and we say that we're going to put them in this rehabilitation center to make them better. Okay. And it's there to make them better and to remove them from society. Well, once we get them there, a lot of you don't get this. Once we get them there, there is no provisional toilet paper and toothbrush and paste and tissue, the necessities, just the bare necessities that anybody needs. That, you know, there's a toilet in every cell, right? Where it's not an unlimited amount of tissue in that cell. They got to pay for it. They got to pay for tissue. They got to pay for soap. They got to pay for anything that comes in those walls. And in an effort to make money off of these people in these jail cells and these prisons, some person that was really smart, I guess, we'll say they're very intelligent, decided, why not change the cost of all of these bare necessities, okay? And let's inflate the cost and make the prisoners pay for it if they need it or want it, okay? And so now you got a prisoner who does not have a job, okay? Who has been confined to this space with no income, okay? And you have said, in order to use the bathroom tonight and in order to wipe your behind correctly with tissue, that you're going to need, we're going to now charge you over $1 for one roll of tissue. Over $1. Sometimes it may be $2 or $3. I haven't had a commissary list in a while. I'll try to find you all one. But I've seen commissary lists before from different jails. And the markup is 200 to 300%. The markup, 200 to 300% per item. Do you understand me? They are paying, and matter of fact, they aren't paying it. They're begging people on the outside to pay for it. Mothers and fathers and sisters and wives and children even are out here tasked with not only trying to provide for the house that they live in, but to try to provide another $300 a month on average for an inmate, just so that they can brush their teeth and be sanitary and have a clean behind. $3 for a hotel size bar of soap. Look, I just heard it. A roll of tissue, $3.50. One roll of tissue. And then y'all wonder why they in there killing each other. Y'all wonder why they in there at each other's throats every time they can. You want to know why? Because every person that walks in there does not have people to help pay for them to live in prison. Because prison is like living on Rodeo Drive. Prison and jail, that shit is like you moved on up when it comes to how much it costs. Okay? $3.50, one roll of tissue. One. Can you imagine that? $3.50 for somebody who can't leave and go to work. For somebody who can't do shit but sit here and wait and hope that people on the outside. Then you got people, then you done took these people away from their family. Now you done took whoever this is. If it's a child, if it's a grandmother. Now you got a grandmother in jail and all of her kids at home. They barely know how they gonna feed themselves. She just had to write bad checks in order to get them bread. You hear me? She had to do what she could only figure out how to do was steal groceries to feed them. And now you got a house full of them outside trying to figure out how only to get tissue for them. But if they can get their grandmama a roll of tissue for $3.50, or a pack of noodles for $1, 10-cent ramen noodles, $1, Little Debbie cakes. Y'all buy a whole box of Little Debbie's at the grocery store for less than $2. It's marked on the outside. If they want a Little Debbie in prison as a snack, it's going to be about $1. Then a phone call. Some of y'all ain't never received them. A phone call. Just to call home. Okay? 10 minutes. $15, $20. $1 a minute. Do you hear me? $1 a minute just to hear your child's voice on either side of that, okay? $1 a minute for the prisoner to talk to their child, or $1 a minute for a mother to talk to hers. $1 a minute so I can hear the sound of my child's voice, who I can no longer afford to pay for tissue for because I can't afford to give them $300 a month just for bare necessities and keep my household going. And y'all wonder why they in there killing themselves and killing like they are. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if just tomorrow, that our prices to live tripled 400%? Just tomorrow. This based off of how you living right now. Just tomorrow. Instead of being able to go to the grocery store and get a pack of tissue for $1, now it's $6. Just a pack of tissue. You need a loaf of bread. Y'all, how many of y'all know? We know got some struggle meals. Everybody on here know you can go take $20 to the grocery store and make you a pot of spaghetti, right? You know how to do stuff to stretch it. I'm going to go buy some spaghetti, buy some ground beef, some noodles, some sauce. We're going to make spaghetti, maybe get a loaf of bread for $1. Imagine if your go-to spaghetti for $20 in prison life, that's $100. In prison, $100. That's how different it is. Now, you got probably 30 to 40% of the population in any prison that once they get there, they have no way to get anything from the outside. 30 to 40% easy, okay? 30 to 40%. Let me help you translate that to you in your house. You know how we got a few robberies? You know how we know, well, I don't want to go on this side of town because that's where crackheads at. Or I don't want to be on this street because that's where they do prostitution, right? You know how we can decide that? Well, if we were living like prisoners lived, we would be walking around holding guns because there would be so many criminals. There would be so many people on the loose that had nothing, that it wouldn't be safe to walk around the street without holding firearms for people who would have to steal from us in order to survive. That's the equivalent of being in prison or any jail, long-term jail. You have people that they know they're not getting out. They're going to be there 5 or 10 years and nobody's bringing them nothing. So guess what happens? Prison becomes a new world. Now it's kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, have or don't have. And that's why they got to get together and form gangs and groups. Because a lot of it is about maintaining enough tissue, maintaining enough soap, maintaining enough toothpaste. And I know some of y'all that's blowing your mind to think, who is going to kill somebody over tissue, right? But that's because in this free world that we live in, we don't have those kind of assaults. But what you got in prison is you got 30 to 40%. Think about that. You got 100 people. Let's say it now. Think, you got 100 people. 30 of those people in that room have nothing and won't have nothing unless they take it from the other 70. They ain't gonna never have nothing. Nobody gonna never drop them nothing. Nobody, the jail not gonna say, well, you ain't got no mama, you ain't got no daddy, ain't nobody brought you nothing. Here go your complimentary tissue. Here goes some complimentary snack cakes. Here goes something. Here go your basic necessities for the month. That shit does not happen, y'all. That is not realistic. So now you got 30 people in there that still gonna be hungry and they still gonna need some tissue to wipe their bottom in a minute. You can't wait a week on tissue. You need some tissue tonight. You need tissue tonight. You got 30 out of 100. Ain't never gonna get none unless they take it from somebody. That's where you get killed or be killed. You get killed or be killed. You get, I'm gonna take it. So you get those people that have to rise to the occasion in order to survive. And many of you will do that. Some of you, let me take you back to Katrina. How many of you, we watched them? I watched them in tears after Katrina, when I knew that them people didn't have nothing. And I knew when I saw those people kicking in doors to stores and coming out of there with baskets, I knew, and in their head, they didn't have nothing. Everything they had floated away into the ocean. Nothing was coming. Nobody was going to bring nothing. Whoever they had is dead. Can you imagine that? And some of you remember that. Some of you remember that heartbreak and that understanding when you watched those people just not even understanding what was about to happen in life with them next. And you understood. And you talked back when the media called them ugly names and said that they were thieves and they were vultures. And they didn't see what was actually happening was what happens with humans and what happens when they're destitute and know nothing else to do. Well, now we done put thousands of them in jail cells, and we have created scenarios and we have created a dynamic that forces what you see happening to happen. We've created that. We made that. And when I say we, I mean all of us. We made that. Some of us made it by turning a blind eye. Some of y'all helped produce it because you didn't pay attention to it. Some of y'all are helping produce it now because you are turning an eye to the videos that you see. And you're making excuses for why those people are dying and why it's okay for them to die because they are prisoners or because they are whatever their circumstances are, and you have absolutely no idea why or what put them in that place. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. And it's so huge. The lady who was over the Department of Corrections has quit. She was new to that position anyway. And, you know, I semi-empathize with her because she did walk into a problem. Her predecessor had been stealing. Her predecessor had been figuring out how to make money, make millions off of what was happening in those walls of those prisons. If it wasn't, they wasn't figuring out how to get money off of phone calls. They figured out how to get money off of commissary. And do y'all see that? I'm telling you, and some of y'all didn't get it. And you didn't even care to figure it out. Like, you didn't wonder, how did Epps get that money? Where exactly did the money come from? How is that kind of money being generated? It's not all tax money. Some of it is the money from the inmates' families that they are scratching together to keep their children and their fathers or their brothers or their mothers or their sisters or their loved ones alive by paying 400% and 500% markups on necessities. Just necessities. And you say, well, why they mad about noodles? Why would anybody want to kill anybody over some ramen noodles?